Hello, whiskey folk. How are we all? I'm a wee bit behind tonight. I'm a little bit late, but it's fantastic to see everybody here. I just need to mute that before it starts. Yes, I was running a wee bit behind tonight, and I didn't get a chance to hang out with anybody who was waiting to join tonight. Everybody standing outside the vPub well in advance of anything happening or the doors being opened. I thought it was going to start to get quiet. You know, the nights are getting a wee bit lighter. Kind of feels like summer is on its way for us in the Northern Hemisphere anyway. But no, it's really busy. There's almost 100 of you waiting to get in before I even open. I appreciate all of you joining me for another Thursday night vPub. Fantastic to see you all. I was rushed tonight. I've just had a fantastic couple of nights, couple of evenings. My two oldest girls were starring in their local school show, and I couldn't miss that. I went to both nights and it was absolutely fantastic. But I got back in time just enough to boot things up and get things ready for you. Luckily, I planned things in advance, so we should be okay. Let's pull up this chat and see who's in tonight before I go through what I'm hoping to share with you tonight. There's lots to share. There's a bunch of stuff to share. There's so much happening. There is no chance of me being able to share everything with you in this vPub tonight, but it's all wonderful and very, very positive things. Let's see. Let's work backwards again. It seemed to work last time we did that. Lee Woodrow. That's a new name, I think, Lee. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you here. Jeremy Sims, Jay Chung, Jess Batty, Anthony Dunn. That's another new name. Evening, Anthony. Good to welcome you in as well. Gregor is in from France. Fantastic to see you in. Toby Field as well. Michael Porter, Donald Rance, Mark Slinger. Good to see you, Mark. Callum Manolo. I think I've seen that name before. Not sure. Welcome in anyway, Malty. Kenneth Kennelty, Joy van der Schuur, looks like another new name. Whiskey Whistle Mark, you star, you're in. Emily McGill, JW Baseman is in. Jimmy Jazz, that's Jim. Carl Van Wallingham, Whiskey Geek Ben, good to see you in, Ben. Michael Johnson, Whiskey Straight Al or AI, I wonder. Good to see you in. I wonder if that's a new name. I feel like I've said that before. Regardless, nice to have you in, Whiskey Straight. Travis is in as well. Travis Soders, good to see you, my friend. Jay Chung, Multi-Haggis Muncher, Matthew, and Gillian B is in as well as Alan, Whiskey Friend, Toon Van Rouge, Colourless Blue Things, Luna Aaron. Thanks for opening the doors. You're very welcome, Luna. That looks like another new name to me. It's getting tougher to remember all the names. The One Glass Man, Ebhead, Rolf, you star, you're in as well. Love Street, fantastic, good to see you, Love Street. The Mash and Drum, wonderful, Jason, thanks for joining in. And Alistair Gray, John Pallister, fantastic. Lots and lots of you in already, 132 of you in the vPub already. Pull up a wee seat, sit in the lounge, get yourself comfortable. I hope you've got a dram in your hands. And if you have got a dram in your hands, is it one of your Epiphany whiskies? Do you have such a thing as an Epiphany whiskey? I mean, it can mean a few things. It can mean a whiskey that gives you one of those kind of shut down your senses moment where you just get sucked into the dram. Or it could be, an Epiphany whiskey could also be, the way I define it anyway, that or a gateway whiskey. You know, something that introduces you to something else, something that kind of nudges your whiskey journey in a certain direction that it wasn't perhaps going in before. And for me, I've had quite a few Epiphany whiskies over the last few years, and they still keep happening. The subject of the vPub tonight was going to be about regionality in Scotch whiskey. It was going to be about Scotch whiskey regions. And I was sitting last night after coming back from the girls' show and getting the kids to bed and everything. I'd been at Deanston recently and I'd bought myself something nice, and I brought it back and I opened it and I sat there. I'd shared it earlier that night with a friend of mine, Keith, and together we enjoyed it very much. But after, when everything was quiet and it was just me, I poured one of these and it was wonderful. Just one of those perfect sensory saturating moments where you just think, wow, we are so fortunate to have whiskey. It's just such an amazing thing. And that whiskey did something for me last night because it's a style of whiskey that I don't usually connect with, and I'll share more with you a little bit later. So that's kind of the theme of tonight. It's not kind of, we don't need to continually talk about these style of whiskies all night, but it's nice just for me to drop in and out of the chat and try and pick up if you've had similar experiences. And then throughout the night, I'm going to share with you some upcoming things and some of the crazy fun things I've been getting involved with over the last couple of weeks as well. It's been really, really busy. Let's see, there's lots of things highlighted for me. I'll try and pick up some of them just now. A wee bit out of sorts tonight because I was rushing, but we'll be fine. Ben, Whiskey Geek, is saying, imagine this crowd getting together in person. Everyone keep May 18th free. Absolutely, more on that to follow, Ben. Fantastic. Good to see you, Aquavite. About to head home, so I'll have a dram in hand by quiz time. Steve, good to have you for the quiz. Safely, get you home safely and pour yourself something nice, perhaps something that's been an epiphany for you. And I'll see you at the quiz. Jason Whiskey Wise, my friend, you star, you're here. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it tonight. And I can see down on the direct messages here, I'm going to keep these open permanently so I can keep half an eye on this tonight, Jason. I managed to wrestle the iPad off the kids. So I've got direct messages sitting in front of me as well. Thanks, my friend. Good to see you in. Jason is saying Convalmore. I think I was with you when that Convalmore moment happened, Jason. Very good dram it was too. Mark Slinger is saying, I have multiple Epiphany Whiskies. So I guess, most people can get what I'm talking about when I talk about those moments. And Gregor is saying, yes, Aquaviti, I opened one recently. I might do a special review about that. You see, it's not just often we can sometimes get a little bit caught up in kind of reviewing whiskey and judging whiskey and trying to work out if it's good value and things like that. I think sometimes it's fun to talk about the things that happen around about the whiskey, almost to the point that the whiskey it becomes an incidental thing. The whiskey is just there to bring people together. Or perhaps it's that you're enjoying the whiskey with somebody or on your own, and something happens. Obviously it has to be a good whiskey, but you just have a moment with it that you realize that there's much more to the drink than just a nice, enjoyable alcoholic spirit. There is something that's capable of shifting perspectives, of making you think differently about everything, what your senses are even for, why they're here. Zach Andrews is saying Lafroig Select was what got me into peated whiskey. Wow, that's an up and down whiskey, Lafroig Select. I was not sure I liked it at first. Often the case with peated whiskies, right? Colourless Blue Things is saying, just as the chat. Oh, wow, it jumped a lot there. Wow, huge fan for me. A huge one for me was Glendronach 12 from around 2011, 2012. A big push for my move from mainly blends into single malts. Still a good whiskey at 12 years old, still good. Kilton Moose is saying, Ardbeg Oogie kickstarted the journey, opened my eyes after just casually sipping whiskey. Loved the peat ever since. Bobby Purnell has just dropped in saying, cheers, my friend, and dropping in a super chat. A virtual dram from Texas. Bobby, you star, thank you very much. I'm going to raise this glass. I poured it, I'll tell you what I finished first, actually, just before I say cheers to Bobby. I finished a dram of this. My first ever Tasmanian whiskey. Now, this was dropped into me from a neighbour, somebody that walks the kids to school, picks up the kids from school from time to time, Billy. And I came home, and my wife said, somebody's just dropped in a bottle of whiskey for you. And it was Billy, my neighbour, and he's brought round a Hellier's Road 10-year-old. Now, this is my first ever taste. Perhaps not taste, but it's the first ever time I've spent any time with a Tasmanian whiskey. Very vanilla, very, very malty, 46.2% unchill filtered. And it's one of the very few Tasmanian whiskies you can actually get your hands on here. So Billy, thank you very much for that, my friend. You're a star. That was really nice of him to drop that in. And in the glass just now that I'm going to raise to Bobby is one of my Epiphany Whiskies. Now, it's not the exact one. The Glengoyne 10 was discontinued for a while. It is back again. Glengoyne 10 was a huge epiphany for me. Back in 2005, that was the one that started it all for me. So the closest I have just now is Glengoyne 14, which is a store special for Marks and Spencer's, which is also becoming discontinued. If you like this, pick it up. It's only 40%, so it's quite light. But I'll raise this wonderful glass of Glengoyne and say, Sláinte, Bobby, Thank you very much for your generosity and support once more, my friend. Cheers. Only 40%. It is soft. It is light. But very typical of Glengoyne. Just so lovely and clean as well. The 10-year-old Glengoyne that's back now is exclusively sherry matured. And it's back as part of the standard range along with the 12. The 15, as you know, is being discontinued. But lovely whiskey. And I think everybody knows my story about Glengoyne in 2005. If you haven't, I'll share it with you a bit later. Somebody nudge me. Travis is saying, my Epiphany whiskey tonight is a 2017 Fashil release of a cask strength Lagavulin 16. Wow, I didn't get to try that one. I wasn't at the Fash in 2017, but I hope it's a cracker, Travis. Chris is in the Whiskey Bowman is saying, Aquaviti, the closest I have to an Epiphany whiskey is going from Ardbeg 10 to Balvenie 12. That's right, I think you got stuck on Ardbeg based on brand and based on just what you knew, and you connected with it and you stuck with it for a while before you were taken in different directions. And it's interesting how many people actually have their first epiphany with a heavily peated Scotch whisky. Skogsmard is saying, Aquaviti, any chance that we can get a tour of what is currently in your bar cabinet, similar to what the Whiskey Dick did back in January? I think if I did that, Skogsmard, I would be equally proud and embarrassed at the same time. I would be embarrassed by the sheer amount of whiskey that I have. But I think I would at least take some pride in how many of the bottles are actually open versus sealed. I have tried harder to keep more whiskies sealed, not because I'm being precious about it, but because when there's so many open, it becomes difficult to manage. I'll tell you just now, I have the last count for the last live stream I did, I was counting 146 open bottles. So it's too many to manage. And I'm trying to work through it just now. About a year ago on Patreon, I did do a video for patrons showing the collection of open bottles, or let's say the collection that was in the cabinets at that time. And I may update that. But I don't know if it's a video that I would do for the channel. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. Stephen Reynolds is saying, mine was Port Charlotte heavily peated, was just outstanding. The moment and the many after. A lot of people love Port Charlotte, right? Good to see you in, Stephen, as well. Whiskey Geek Ben is saying, Dalwhinnie 1986 single cask at distillery. I can see how that would hook you. Realization, I was hooked and beginning to realize how much casks have to play in flavor profiles. Wonderful. Oh, I need to catch up. Wow. New Dram Drinker saying, first time here, I recognize your icon and your handle. Nice to welcome you in, my friend. Good to see you. Stephen Davison is saying, thought on Balblair reband and price hike. I think on the whole Balblair thing, I think I'm just going to echo the community. Let's spend a minute talking about that, actually, because Balblair has always been an under-the-radar Highland distillery, capable of doing very, very good product and mediocre as well. Let's be honest. Sometimes it was a bit, that's good whiskey. They've never put anything out that's substandard. They've never put anything out that you think it's terrible. Some of the whiskies they put out were really, really good, very good. But the thing that made you forgive them, even if there was a wee bit of inconsistency, because let's face it, they embraced the whole idea of vintage. So let's understand that as well. There's a difference between vintage and an age statement. Let's imagine it's a 15-year-old whiskey. The youngest component in that whiskey is 15 years old, but there could theoretically be all sorts of much older whiskey in the bottle as well. But a vintage, if it says 1999 on the bottle, in the case of Balblairs, for example, all the whiskey in that bottle is from 1999. So it's not just a different way of labeling the whiskey, it's a different attitude to presenting your whiskey. Anyway, we loved it, and we loved the idea of annual releases, and we, you know, the fans, the whiskey fans, loved Balblair. They loved the value it came at as well. I mean, it was fantastic. Balblair 99 as well was a little bit of a mini epiphany whiskey for me. When I was not getting on with sherry casks back in about 2014, everything was just tasting a bit, not so good in the sherry. scene to me. And then at the airport one time, I was trying a few samples and I picked up one not knowing it was sherry. And I thought, that's wonderful. That's really clean and delicious and spicy. What is that? And it's the Balblair 99. It was a sherry cask edition. And that was on a trip to France. I took it with me. I bought it. It was a litre bottle. Absolutely loved it. And I realised that I could get back into enjoying sherry casks again. But that was very good value whiskey. That was probably at the time, it was, I think, about £65. So 1999, it would have been about a 16-year-old whiskey at that time, I think, for a litre as well. So Balblair is synonymous with pretty good value. I made some notes actually earlier today. I don't even know if I still have them. Are they here? Yes, they're here. So according to the new launch, the 15-year-old is now £75. Okay. The 18-year-old is £120. A year ago in January, Balblair launched their 2000. So that would have been a 17, or potentially, if it was in January, it would have been a 17-year-old product. So for one extra year, we are paying an additional £50. It jumps from 70 to 120. Really? Now, they could argue that they've moved to age statements, so there's older stock in there, and that's what's adding the extra cost. But I didn't read anything along those lines. The 25-year-old is £500 for a 25-year-old Balblair. It's £260 for a 25-year-old Glengoyne. Can Balblair go toe-to-toe with 25-year-old Glengoyne? It remains to be seen. But to put that hike into perspective, a year ago in January 2018, they launched a 1991 24-year-old whiskey for £125. Now, admittedly, I've differentiated between vintage and aged, but how can you jump that in price hike? How can you do that? Now, this is on the back of the same producer having the same cynical attitude with Old Pulteney. We saw the huge hike in Old Pulteney where the 17-year-old went from a £70 product to an 18-year-old at 115, 120. Huge. Now, I will have nobody say anything about the general quality of Old Pulteney or the general quality of Balblair. It's very, very good whiskey. It can be exceptionally good. But when the revamp ushers in a new era for the distillery, it's not. It's just changing our perspective of that whiskey all of a sudden. You look everywhere at the scores for Balblair, whether it's independent reviewers, blogs, YouTubers, Whiskey Base, wherever you look, you're going to find scores that are given a generous little lift because of how good value the whiskey always was, how trustworthy it was in its presentation at 46%, at natural, saying non-chill filtered on the label. The information that they gave on the label was always very good. And people liked that. And they always kind of, Balblair always remained in a lot of most people's sweet spot. I think they benefited from that good value. And I think that's been taken away. What do you think? Let's catch up with the comments. Wow, I'm way behind. Greg is saying, if only they could reach the level of previous age statement, 38-year-old, my favourite of them all. Yeah, those days are long gone, unfortunately, Gregor. We have to find where the value and the epiphanies lie nowadays, right? Trenny and C are saying, hey, Roy, good to see you in, boys. That's Trenny and C from Canada. Other YouTubers over there, really funny guys. Fantastic to see you in. And I know that maybe you guys aren't on daylight savings yet. Maybe you're an hour closer, but you're still about 7 or 8 hours behind, I think, aren't you? Fantastic to see you in, boys. Good to welcome you here. The Whiskey Bowman Chris is saying, I have no intention of getting the new Old Pulteney or Balblair now, just not worth it. Well, you know what? One of the things that I always say is that you should always compare a whiskey to its peers rather than what it used to cost, because you can argue that a brand has invested. I'm not suggesting at any point Balblair was loss leading, right? They were investing. They were trying to occupy an area of the market that was kind of good value, high quality whiskey, and they were flying under the radar. But they've built up a bit of a reputation, and now they want to cash in on that a little bit. So you try it, and you try it with an open mind, and you look at the ages, and you look at the costs, and you look at the price hike, and you take it all into account when you try the whiskey, and try and be as open-minded as you possibly can be to try and rationally judge it and see if does Balblair justify cashing in? Does it justify the new prices? Does it justify based on its new presentation? Can Balblair tell us a bit more? Are they putting in much older stock? Have they really cranked up the quality by putting age statements on there? Have they really embraced the flexibility of moving away from vintages as given them? Or are they simply going, yeah, people will pay £500 for a 25-year-old whiskey. I won't. Steve Helder is saying, hi Roy, just quickly popping in for a while at work, headed out. No worries, Steve. Listen, these things are always available for you on the replay. You come in, you cut it into chunks, use it as a podcast, do what you want to do. It's got that extra dimension when you can join live, but I understand completely. I'm in Europe, and it means that I exclude a lot of people. It's just the way it has to be living on a sphere, unfortunately. Whiskey Radar is saying, the lovely Balblair 1991 27-year-old from last year is something around £140 in Germany. Really fair price. Absolutely. So that's a 27-year-old for £140. But if you want the 25-year-old, but like I say, we have to differentiate age statement versus vintage. It's 500. Training C is saying the market will determine the value. If it's not worth, we can protest by not buying it. Absolutely agree, Training C. Unfortunately, you, me, and everybody in the lounge, everybody that watches these vPubs, unfortunately, we are growing, we're becoming more, we are day by day becoming a bigger thing, but we remain the minority. Ebhead is saying, I cry when I think of Ralphie's love letter to Balblair. Absolutely. But in the context of the time, it's still absolutely valid. Whiskey Geek is saying, so long as they don't betray the Balblair DNA, they will be okay. I don't see the higher end stuff anymore, but I'm sure they'll end up in the higher end market easily enough. Alistair Gray saying it's Brexit. Absolutely. My downstairs toilet isn't flushing. I blame Brexit. Toon Van Rouge is saying the same with the new Glendronach 15. That's more expensive as the 18. Well, yeah, it's kind of a similar thing, but the Glendronach 15, I got over my huff with that quite quickly because I tasted it and thought, damn, this is a decent whiskey, and it's £65. And everybody has snapped that up and proven the marketing, the placement, the product placement of that, the price point of it, to be very well judged, because it was snapped up everywhere and it was sold out everywhere at its new price. Yes, it's not the old price of £45, £50 that we used to get Glendronach 15 at, but it's not the same whiskey either. And things have changed in the couple of years that it was away. You have to judge it based on comparing it to its peers, I guess. And it's not that expensive, and it is quite a good whiskey. Still, it's hard to stomach the price hikes. And as has been pointed out, we can, as Training C mentioned, we can choose not to engage and find value elsewhere. Found some cracking value, that whiskey I bought yesterday. My goodness. Slancha 7. Food Quig's in, quick, you're in. I noticed, I got a notification on my phone when I was running home tonight that you did a live stream tonight. I had the pleasure of welcoming Food Quig Andy into Glasgow at the Glasgow Central Station. And I took him along to the club night on Tuesday night, the Glasgow Whisky Club. And it was really nice to see him. Unfortunately, Jason Whiskey-wise has a fantastic knack of tiring people out in London before I get them in Scotland. So they land in London and they run around London on adrenaline and enjoy themselves. And then they don't get enough sleep and they come up here and they look like ghosts. Andy's a trooper. He did really, really well, but he was quite tired. But he got his second wind after about 3 or 4 drams at the Glasgow Whisky Club. And we had a nice chat and got to hang out together at the Whisky Club on Tuesday night. And I got to see him as well. And I got to meet Whiskey Jason from Germany. So there are 2 other YouTubers visiting Scotland right now. Food Quig. Andy is currently in Edinburgh heading to Islay tomorrow. And Jason has jumped in a rental car and is currently touring around the Highlands, frantically trying to squeeze in as many distilleries on his dream trip as possible. So it was an absolute pleasure hanging out with those 2 guys. Jason brought me along this cast strength North Star Linkwood, fantastic. A Brothership 10-year Irish-American whiskey, 45%. I've never heard of that. Some kind of collaboration of Irish-American whiskies, I guess. And a Kilbeggan small batch rye. And Jason, being the guy he is putting whiskey base numbers on these, which is really considerate of him. So thank you very, very much, Jason. Andy Foodquig bought me a gift that I struggled to accept. A wonderful gift, a very special gift. And I don't want to tell anybody what it is, but I will share it with everyone. And I don't mean by telling you what it is. I'm going to find a way to take that very special bottle that Andy left here, and I'm going to share it with Whiskey Folk very soon. There is a plan in place. I said that I would accept it from Andy on the condition that he was okay with me opening it and sharing it. It's a fantastic whiskey. Andy is in our bag. He's saying, Aquavite, is this another price hike with the secondary market in mind, as this is being used as an excuse by other companies? I can't imagine you can launch a new to market, please tell everybody about this, please tell everybody about this product, and then expect there to be a lot of immediate interest from secondary market. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being naive there. But secondary market usually comes into play when there's an anticipated release, when there's pent-up demand, when the brand has been able to kind of cultivate desire, right? Toby Field is saying the Kilbeggan small batch rye is really nice, lovely orchard fruits, and typical rye spicy finish. If I get a chance to open it tonight, I may do that. Newsram Drinking is saying he got 21 followers on YouTube. So wait a minute, have I even had a chance to look at your content? I don't think I have yet. There's so many channels now, and that's fine. It's fantastic. Just the same as, you know, there's so many Instagram feeds or blog sites or whatever there is. There will always be an audience for everyone. Everybody will find an audience, but it's going to be hard for you, New Dram Drinker. It's going to be more and more difficult for you to grow at a rate that's maybe going to satisfy. So just let the whiskey teach you how to slow down and be patient and take it easy. It can be a while. I was going for 2 months, 3 months, something like that, 4 months. And I had 3 videos out there. I had 2 little project videos that I did. I had a pronunciation video that hadn't done anything. And I had my first recycled review, and it landed in the lap of Vin PF at No Nonsense Whiskey. I'm wearing his shirt tonight, and he was my 11th subscriber. So there was months going by, and the only subscribers I had were friends and family. Then it kind of slowly started to pick up, and it got a lot faster after that. But it does take a while. Be patient with it. Malted Man Cave Keith is in as well. So many other peer creators in. It's fantastic. And we don't always differentiate. You know, we're all just kind of part of like the lounge tonight. We're just part of the community. We're all talking about the same things. It's not from the perspective of making content or watching it or consuming it. It's from the perspective of whiskey enjoyment. Love that these guys tune in as well. Wonderful to have you. I wonder how many of you are going to be able to stay for the quiz tonight. I promise you guys that, in my opinion, the quiz is a bit easier tonight. I really believe that I've kind of probably been a little bit too soft, arguably. Let's see what you think later. Jason Whiskey Wise is welcoming in Vin. He's saying nice shirt and gives me a little wink. Good to see you in, Vin. Yes, I'm flying your colours tonight. I actually really like this polo shirt. It's one of the shirts that, you know how when you get a shirt that just kind of fits nicely and just sits nicely, it washes really well as well. It's a good quality shirt. I'd probably be up for buying another. Jason Whiskey Wise is saying the biggest question is who designed tonight's quiz. It was me. They're all my questions tonight. Just not because of anyone else, because of my schedule, because of how busy I've been. I just put a post out on Patreon just sharing with people just how busy I've been recently. I have not been able to connect with all the people that I really want to keep in touch with. And the Whiskey Rev is one of those guys. So we're not keeping in touch as much as we have been, and I feel like I can't just kind of reach out and say, give me some questions, big guy, you know. But if you're out there listening, Rev, you know, we're always thankful and grateful for your questions. And I feel like that about everybody. My priority recently has been keeping up with people interested in the coins and things like that. You don't want to keep those people waiting, and I was keeping up very well up until maybe the last couple of days. So I'm delinquent. I've got about 5 or 6 packages that I've dropped in yesterday and the day before that I've just not had a minute to get. And I am delinquent also on some messages and emails chasing things up. I am aware of it and I'm on it, and I will help every single one of you. Kevin Bryant is saying, Aquavita evening, Roy, a bit late tonight, sipping on a Glengoyne 12-year. Well, I'm sitting here with the Glengoyne 14, Kevin. So cheers to you and nice to welcome you in. Food Quick is saying, yeah, right, the quiz will be easy, Aquaviti. I hope you didn't, anybody didn't think that Food Quick was joining tonight, because you might have noticed that for the thumbnail for this live tonight, I actually used a picture of Food Quick. And but the reason that I used that picture is he was standing in the Deanston warehouse at the time. And I was driving, Whiskey Jason was driving. It was kind of a quick visit for us, but Andy was kind of been able to drink and draw straight from the casks and just really savor things and enjoy them. And I was taking a few snaps and I was taking some footage, and I caught that moment. I caught that moment where he paused for a second and he was doing his kind of anaconda where he's spinning the glass, and he stopped and he just kind of rocked his head back and went, oh, and let out this groan. And I caught the moment. I could tell he was enjoying himself. I'm not sure I would call it an epiphany, but it was just a really nice moment to catch. And I caught a couple of nice pictures of Andy, actually. And I know I need to share them with you, Andy, and the video footage that we took in the hope that you can use it. Wonderful to hang out with Andy, and of course Whiskey Jason as well. It was really nice to get a, albeit too short amount of time with Jason as well. Did I just see the Whiskey Ref scrolling past? Yeah, he's in. How are you, big guy? You must have heard me. He said, I'm perfectly happy to contribute some questions if they're needed. They're always very welcome, big guy. Bring it on. Bit too late for tonight, but I'd love to get some more. Emily McGill is saying, even the thumbnail for the video is a banana skin. That's right. I was actually messing around. I was thinking, well, what kind of image can I use to talk about epiphanies? What can I do? And then I realized, come on, you know, that image. And I think I put that out, that very image, because I loved it so much. I put it out as an Instagram post as well. So yeah, that's why I've used it. Food Quig is not going to be on. Yes. He's in his accommodation in Edinburgh. I hope you're having a nice time over there, Andy. Toby Field is saying that's the best picture to represent how amazing whiskey can make us feel. That's what it said to me, Toby. You're absolutely right, and that's why I used it. Etty the malt cask is in saying, I'm always amazed at the effect some bottles can have on you, how they can transport you somewhere else, like the Laga 8 or the Moigno Oloroso. Feels surreal to get that feeling from a drink. Listen, I remember the first time it ever happened to me in 2005. I was driving. Oh, wow. All the messages are coming in. I'm not doing the greatest of job. Jordy V has left a super chat. That's amazing, because I didn't see that flash up at all. Thank you very much, Geordie. And Jason, thanks for pointing that out to me because I didn't see that at all. He said, hi, Aquavita, I guess you're aware of the Balblair shock today. Are you crying just like I am? Yeah, Geordie, we just discussed that a second ago. I'm a little bit curious to see how it all pans out, and it'd be interesting to hear feedback from Balblair as to what's going on there and what the thinking is about charging £500 for a 25-year-old Balblair. Emery McGill, I was halfway through his comment. My Epiphany Whiskey moment was the first time I ever experienced Lagavulin 16. When I woke up the next morning, it was still so visceral in my mind the next day. Well, Emery, you may know that Lagavulin 16 was what did it for me as well. And I've actually got a Lagavulin over my shoulder to share with you tonight. But it's not a normal Lagavulin 16. It's a Lagavulin White Horse edition. And it was, well, when I pick it up and pour it, I'll tell you a wee bit more about it. But it's a very different Lagavulin 16. Kenneth Kennelty saying, Roy, did you do any video with the Quig? I recorded quite a bit of video, but I recorded footage for Andy because he was going around recording, and I thought, yeah, Andy, you know, relax, enjoy the environment, enjoy what you're doing. Let me film for you, and I'll give you the footage. Just tell me what you kind of want to film, but he continued to film bits and pieces, but I was able to catch some kind of candid moments and things, and some, you know, context shots and things. So you might be able to use it for B-roll and things like that. A new dram drinker is saying, if you had to recommend one distillery to visit over, by which one would it be? Glengoyne, because it's very easy to get to. It's a lovely, it does a nice selection of tours, a very basic, easy to get in and out of tour, nice shop, good stuff in it. There's premium tours, blending tours, kind of draw from a cask type things. And it's got a really nice, warm, cozy feel to the distillery. It's nice to go close to Glasgow. The problem with Glengoyne is food. You always have to leave Glengoyne to get something to eat. I've just had a super chat in from Vin at No Nonsense Whiskey, which no doubt he's saying, thanks for wearing the shirt. Let's see. He's saying, as always, unfortunately, I can't stay. You're just not trying hard enough. And amazingly, work is always, Roy. I know, buddy, don't worry about it. I had an epiphany when we added water to Glengoyne cask strength on a live together. You know what's really funny? Craig Dollier, my friend Craig, he often picks these up, sometimes live, but often the next day on the Friday. I was out at Ben Riach tasting with Craig and Wally recently, his uncle. It was a really nice night. But he talked about that, and because I was on the live with you, I didn't appreciate just how much of a moment that you had. And he pointed it out to me, and I went back and watched the video again. And that was about a year ago we did that collaboration, wasn't it, Vin? I'm not sure. And it was about adding water to whiskey, and you were a bit stubborn about it. And there was clearly a moment. If you ever come to SMWS at the vaults in Edinburgh, everything you drink is cask strength. It's like they will, you know, the whiskies will beat you until you relax a bit and add a wee bit of water in it. And just, you never need to be convinced again. It's very obvious. Food Quick says we're going to put together some great collaboration video at Aquavita. Yeah, maybe we could do a remote edit or something, Quick. What do you think about that? I'm actually missing you. I felt that because there was such a rush in our schedule and things, and I took Andy to my local train station, the most direct route to get him back to his hotel so that I could come back and make the girls' show. That, you know, he had to run to catch his train. And I thought, damn, I don't know when the next time is I'm going to see that guy. I should have taken a moment. But he was rushing to catch his train and things like that, and he caught it. And I'm glad to see that he's settled in Edinburgh as well. Okay, so I'm going to finish this wee Glengoyne 14. And I'm going to, I think this is getting better. There's really not much left in this bottle now. I've had it a wee while. That's at the level now that it probably just needs to, the decent thing needs to be done. Fortunately for fans of recycled reviews, there's enough of these left downstairs with this amount left in it that I can probably get a little night with some friends, kill off a few bottles, and get a recycled video on the way. Oh, Amy was in and she's saying night all. Sorry I missed you, Amy. I hope I caught you before you left. It's really nice to have you in, and thanks for joining while you were here for a wee while. Tony Evans is saying, "We've did the blind tasting with Drew. Was great. Looking forward to seeing Bart." Yes, I'm looking forward to that one as well. I really am. I'd kind of put together a list of the whiskies I would choose for Bart. And Scott, Kilted Moose, has got one that I'm going to draw on perhaps. But then I had a bit of a rethink and thought, you know, I might not do that. I might do something else with Bart. But then I realised that I didn't want to dilute what's kind of been built up. I want to keep the concept of that blind challenge the same. And I don't kind of want to, because it's Bart, because we know his tastes and his likes, I didn't want to. I was almost tempted to change it up a bit too much. But thanks for saying that, Tony. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was great to work with Drew. That was a nice collaboration to do. And Food Quick is saying a collaborative editing would be great. Let's see what we can come up with. I'll share with you the footage that I've got. Or what I may do is try and stitch together something if I get some time. And you can cut in or overlay. I'm actually going on holiday next week for a week though, Andy, so that might be tricky to do that unless I take my machine with me. Kevin Bryant is saying, my wife brought me back a bottle of Ailsa Bay. Talking of wives and talking about editing while I'm on holiday, because my wife popped into my head when I talked about that. My wife wants to say thank you very much for all the wonderful birthday wishes you gave her and for being so grateful to her for letting me go ahead with the vPub on her birthday. Let me tell you that she was completely ambivalent about her birthday. She didn't really care, but she's very grateful for all your nice wishes. Kevin is saying, my wife brought me back a bottle of Ailsa Bay 1.2 Sweet Smoke from Gatwick last week. Not opened it yet. Anyone tried it? I haven't tried it yet. Or have I? Maybe that was one of the Whiskey Club ones. Not sure. I don't have a memory of trying it. There you go, Kevin. I'm sure it's a good whiskey. I'm sure it will be nice. There's a super chat. Virtual Dram came in from Tyler Leon Pardo, and he's saying, what's your opinion on the Arran 21-year-old? I bought it for £125. I'm wondering if it's good value for money and if the value would rise. So I got the Arran 21 from my wife for Christmas, and I think, did I open it on a live? Did I open it on a video? Not sure. It's still stretching its legs a wee bit. It's still, there's a lot going on with the caskings in that bottle. It's a busy bottle. Some would say complex. I think it's a wee bit noisy still. My favorite Arrans are kind of more recent Arrans. So I quite enjoy the 18, but I really enjoy the 14. That's a lot to do with the casks probably, but maybe to do with kind of Arran working its way through its distillation and making little tweaks and refinements and things, managing casks better. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just guessing. So the 21 for me is still sit. It's very rich, lots of spice, lots of different flavors to explore and things. It is definitely not a beginner's whiskey. It's not a 21-year-old that's been bottled to be very easy, soft and smooth. It's one that you actually have to work a little bit with. I hope that helps you, Tyler, and I want to raise a glass, the last little sip of my Glengoyne here, and say, Sláinte, thank you for your virtual dram. I definitely think that Glengoyne has developed, or maybe I'm just in a kind of a nice place to enjoy that tonight. I enjoyed that little Glengoyne. But let's see how I got on with this whiskey that I bought when I visited Deanston. Now I got a discount off this. They gave me £5 off this bottle. But I think it's a kind of discount that you would get by doing the tour that we did and things, or I don't know, whatever. But this was expensive for a 12-year-old whiskey. This was £80 and I paid 75. It's Deanston 12 years old, but it's cask strength 12-year-old Deanston, and it's a Palo Cortado finish. Now, I'd tried a Tobermory Palo Cortado from the same company, Tobermory, of course, and not liking Tobermory that much. I prefer the Lechick from the same distillery. I wasn't expecting too much, and it was a wonderful whiskey. Absolutely wonderful. And there was a sweetness on the palate with that kind of made me. I'm not really a lover of sweet whiskies. If it's too sweet and sickly, it's like a dessert dram for me. So you have one and you want to move on to something else, or you kind of don't want to go back for a second dram. That's the way I feel about sweetened whiskies. So I'm always a wee bit wary about PX casks, for example. Anything that brings too much sweetness. When I put my nose in this, I thought, it's unlikely I'm going to like this. And yet, I bought the bottle and I brought it home. First dram, I was very happy. And like I said, that moment I had sitting downstairs last night, I was very, very happy I bought it. This is very sweet whiskey. This is pure raisin syrup. It's just sweet, dried fruit, very sweet, sweet raisins. I'm pouring it in the same glass as the Glengoyne. It's cast strength, there's plenty power. I wish I could share that smell with you. Very rich, very sweet whiskey. And there's a nuttiness like that completely betrays everything else. The nuttiness gives a suggestion of dryness, of almost I don't know how you would describe it, like a dustiness. But it's definitely nutty. It's very nutty. But the thing that cuts through everything, the thing that jumps out the glass, is the sweet. It's almost like prune juice, but it's nicer than that. It's at 55.4%. So like I said, a wee bit pricey for 12 years old. But I didn't doubt the quality of it. Same thing as last night. 55.4%. But the arrival is soft and sweet and juicy. Very juicy. The mid palate, in comes the baking spices, in comes the chili spices from the alcohol, from the high ABV. The spice lands mid palate, and that's the finish. All the while wrapped in this really rich sweet. I don't want to say prunes, but it's like that. Plummy prunes. I think this is a distillery exclusive, unfortunately. I think you have to go to the distillery to get this one. I don't think there was that much of it, released. So, yeah, it says one of only 492 special edition bottles. It's a shame. But the reason that I'm sharing this with you tonight isn't because I recommend that you go out and buy this. The reason I'm sharing this with you is that I had a lights out moment with it last night. It was the last dram. I just had a few sips left in the glass. I was sitting with my feet up just before I went to bed. My wife had gone to bed just that wee bit earlier. All I had to do was put some lights out and go to bed. And I was sitting finishing this whiskey and thinking about the girls' show and everything. And I just let it sit on my palate. And I just let it sit and let it sit. And it was absolutely magical. Magical. To the point that, if it wasn't so late at night, I would easily have been nudged in. If there was somebody else there, I'd have been easily nudged into pouring another dram. Absolutely. And that's my point about this whiskey. That style of whiskey I would not normally consider Moorish. And yet this, for me, is. So maybe I've had another little nudge of my trajectory, right? Another little nudge of the journey. Whiskey Geek is saying my fifth and most recent epiphany I can think of, Brooklady 26-year-old cask, straight from the cask. One of two comments. Appreciating just how much luck or serendipity, absolutely, can go into getting that special whiskey from their history and the story of that cask. Yes, I mean, that investment, just having a little bit of time to understand what's in the glass sometimes as well, just kind of can push you over the edge and let you understand a wee bit more about what you're having. Love Street is saying Aquaviti, Bunnahaven, Palo Cortado is also great. Distell have got some great casks. I think lots of distilleries have great casks. Distell, through Joanne, through Kirsty, through the fantastic building blocks that was put down through Ian Macmillan back in his day, you know, it's just a magical time for them, I think. I think that there's very little that's going wrong. Everything that's coming out is really sit up and pay attention. I've just did a virtual drama in from my friend Keith, you star, Malted Man Cave, over in Ohio, saying, thanks for all you do for the whiskey community, buddy. Come on, Keith. If you had to pick between Loch Lomond 18, it's great whiskey, and Arran 18 to enjoy and review, which one would you recommend? Loch Lomond 18. The two 18-year-olds together, I think Loch Lomond would nudge it. Arran 18 is wonderful. It's quite a spicy, always has a kind of a lot of orange and salt. It's like a salted orange and malt experience. Loch Lomond 18 is just that little bit more complex. Really surprised every time I go back to Loch Lomond just now. I think it's wonderful whiskey, really enjoying what they're bringing. I'd love to go up and do a wee nosing around Loch Lomond. Very interesting distillery up there as well, just with the flexibility that they have. But Keith, I'm going to raise this wonderful wee glass of Deanston Palo Cortado 12-year-old, and I'm going to say, sláinte to you, my friend. I can't wait till you and I get together and get to raise a glass in the real world, right? And that's why I've been lucky recently, because there's been so many real world things. Era McFault was over from Belgium. We got to hang out together a wee bit in Fife. Then we got to go to a whiskey club tasting, a Compass Box tasting together as well. He just happened to make his way to Glasgow that night, and we were able to hang out. Fantastic. Then obviously Whiskey Jason, Food Quig Andy coming across and things, these real world things. And I'm super excited because the Scotch Test Dummies are coming to Scotland. They have booked their flights. The flights are all arranged. The T's are crossed. The I's are dotted. For as long as I've been watching those guys, I don't know how far, 3.5 years, I don't know, maybe a wee bit more even, I've been dreaming of the day that they would put their feet on Scottish soil. Thanks to a very generous invite from the guys at Waterford Distillery, they've tempted the dummies across to Ireland. And they've been so accommodating that after they've done the thing in Ireland, they're going to let them go and have their little tour, tacked on tour of Scotland as well. And they're taking care of the travel arrangements for them, which is really, really very cool of Waterford, to afford the rest of us whiskey folk that opportunity to see how the dummies get on in Scotland. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm really excited to be their host while they're here as well. And Ben Marnick is saying, test it, absolutely. And we are planning some events. So World Whiskey Day is Saturday, the 18th of May. There is some chatter I've noticed going by. The tasting is sold out. It went out to patrons and it was sold out in the first day. It's sold. Most of the people that have been in touch with me have a place. Don't panic, don't worry. There's only 2 of you that is currently on a waiting list. But there is also 2 on the confirmed list, let's say, that's still a wee bit tentative, who have yet to confirm travel plans to be able to make it. So the tasting is fully booked. It's a small, small room. But the main event is just a handshake, a gathering, just getting together in the evening. And we're going to do that in the Bon Accord in Glasgow. I spoke very briefly to Paul. He's okay with it at the Bon Accord. We're going to be there from around 6:30 p.m. in the evening until about 10 p.m. in the evening on the 18th of May in Glasgow. I'll be there. Scotch Test Dummies will be there. Perhaps a few other YouTubers as well. Maybe even some of your favourites are coming along as well. It's going to be a fantastic way to mark and celebrate World Whiskey Day and just that kind of coming together. There is nothing better than taking our virtual community into the real world, and kind of just meeting people that you know only by their handles and their comments, and kind of just sharing a dram and a chat and having a laugh and getting to know them a bit better. It's a very, very cool thing to do. Ebhead Rolf is saying a pre-party is at the Pot Still on Friday night. So because so many of the community are coming in from Europe and flying in for this, they've got a couple of extra things going on. So they're looking after themselves. I would recommend that you find some way in the comments, either here in the live, obviously in the lounge, you can chat, but in the comments under the video, you can hook up and get together. Especially if it's arrangements that you want to generally broadcast to the community in general, that you're going to be at the Pot Still in Glasgow on the Friday the 17th, and maybe what you're doing, even to eat together and hang out together during the day if you're going to go off and do an event like the Clydeside Distillery Tour or something like that. Share it with people what you're doing, and you might find that other folk are interested in coming along and joining you. Nigel Lynn is saying, might just have to make that trip up the road on the 18th. Nigel, do it. Come up and see us at the Bon Accord. Can you imagine how cool it would be? Keith, thank you so much for your dram. I feel like I said thank you, but I'm just making sure. Spiritworks Tom, good to have you in. He's saying, hey Roy, I'm a little late to the party, but I noticed you're drinking some tasty Deanston there. Yes, it's a special edition Deanston, Tom. I'm suddenly feeling really guilty about sharing it because it's only 492 bottles, but it's on the theme of Epiphany Whiskies for me because it's a bit sweeter than I would normally enjoy. But maybe it's the high ABV, maybe it's the cask strength. I think it's just those guys are... I don't know if it's Kirsty, I don't know if it's Joanne, I don't know who's involved, but they're putting out just lovely stuff right now. Really enjoying it. Scottish in the Bayou, Leanne is in. Good to see you in, Leanne. Fantastic to have you here. And she's saying, I received my coin today. I love it. Thank you so much, Leanne. It's taken a wee bit long on some of the shipments. I made a wee bit mistake on Rolf's coin, and it's ended up being shipped back to me just because of a typo in the postcode. And there are a couple of people that have messaged to say I don't have it yet. Actually, there's only one now. There's only one guy waiting, and I am on it. Scott, isn't it? Or Richard? Can't remember. I'm on it, and I'm tracking it down to see if I can help at all. But there was a few last year. There were a few last year that just took a long time to get to their destination, but they all landed there in the end, with the exception of Mikey Hay in London. Bizarrely, it didn't arrive. I still have coins. I've got just over 100 coins left, actually. And what I need to do is try and find a way to share the numbers that are left with you, but they tend to be, there's a few of the 200s left, not so many. Some 300s and some 400s left. All the obvious ones have been long snapped up, but sometimes it's nice just to kind of, let a bit of serendipity come in. And when I bought my first ever Scotch Test Dummies coin way back in the day, just 181 was just randomly sent to me. And now every coin that I have is 181. And when there's less than 100 coins, 81. So I quite like that number. It's just kind of become my number. Whiskey Wims is saying, thanks for tonight, Roy. Off to bed, no problem. I hope you can pick it up in the replay, my friend. Good to welcome you in here tonight. Spiritworks Tom is saying, how does it compare to the Sauterne cask finish I sent you a sample of? Well, interestingly, I got to try the Sauterne cask at the distillery, not on this most recent trip, and bring a sample home. And then you sent me a wee bit more, and I did really like it. And it was quite sweet as well. I'd say that one was probably, the Sauterne cask is a wee bit drier. It was quite nice and sweet and light. Without comparing them side by side, honestly, Tom, I'm not very sure. But this one is it's a juicier prospect. It's a richer thing. It's a very palate challenging thing to sip. But even if it's most basic level, it's a good whiskey to sip. But it's one of those ones that you can chew on for quite a while. It's really quite nice. Did I see Eric Waite's face? And then Yari saying hello from California. Sorry, I couldn't tune in earlier. No worries at all, Eric. Always good to see you, my friend. Nice to welcome you back again. Frank Harding is saying, got mine, and it's on top of my Michters now. wonderful. I love these coins. Just love that people are kind of carrying them. And Kieran Hamd is saying he's got to hit the hay, but great watching live. I normally catch you in the replay. Jez Batty, see you for lunch and Caden Heads. Jason Whiskey Wise, catch you a little later in the evening. Listen, don't worry about it, Kieran. It was nice to have you in. Nice for you to say hello, and maybe you can pick up the quiz at the very least on the replay. Okay, let's move on a wee bit. What else have I got to talk about? The winner of the Glenallachie 12 years old, which was Ralphie's Whiskey of the Year, that I held a giveaway for, and it was picked. It was Kyle in the States that won. J.K. Van Fleet won. And we tried to fathom a way in order for him to get the whiskey, but it was getting a bit complicated, and I can't ship that whiskey legally. I can't ship a full bottle of whiskey to the States, and there was no obvious mules or anything willing to step up. And he just kind of said, you know what, I'll kind of opt out. I'll opt out, no problem. Don't worry about it. I don't need the whiskey. It's just because I was really keen to get a Glenallachie 12. I can't buy it in my local area. So I sent Kyle a T-shirt, and I sent him a small care package, let's say, and that's already been shipped, and that's on its way to him. And the Glenallachie is coming up for a redraw. If you want to be involved in the redraw for this bottle of Glenallachie 12 years old that's here, Ralphie's Whiskey of the Year, the original entries will be re-entered again. So if you're already entered, don't worry about it. But if you want a new entry, if you want to be added to the list and have a chance of winning that, indulge me. There is a good chance I'm going to get to have a sit down with Ralphie Mitchell, Ralphie himself. At his suggestion, he wants to, this year, to mark his 10th year anniversary with a wee bit of a kind of casual chat, sit down, and a bit of an interview. And he broached the subject with me, and I said, I would love to do that, Ralphie. I would love to do that. Let's see if we can work it out. I would never ever ask Ralphie that, because I know that he likes to do what he's doing. He likes to do it his way, and he likes to protect what he's built up. And I respect that fully. It's Ralphie. Even when I did that live stream last year to mark his 100,000 subscribers, I messaged Ralphie in advance to make sure he was okay with me doing that, because I don't want it to ever seem, especially to Ralphie, that I'm in some way trying to kind of hang on his coattails or whatever. So anyway, it's at his suggestion. And I got to thinking, and I asked him, I said, listen, would you mind if I canvassed the community for questions that I could share with you, rather than me sitting down and coming up with questions and them all being very aquavitae flavored, right? All the questions are from my perspective and what I want to know about Ralphie. Can I harvest questions from the community? And he said, yes, of course you can. So my idea is I will enter you in to the Glenallachie draw, but all I want is a comment on this video, not in the live chat, in the comments underneath. So you can go in now and do that, or you can do it after the event, and give me a question that you would like to be asked to Ralphie from me. And you'll be credited as well. I'll tell everybody I'll announce who the questions are coming from. And I'll pick the best ones when I get an opportunity to sit down with Ralphie. Jimmy Jazz is saying a trip to the Bothy. Who knows? Who knows, Jimmy? That's not on the cards. That's not been invited. Whiskey Geek is saying we don't do heads or tails anymore. We do aquavitae or tails. Game in hand on Isla. Absolutely. So these are my coins here. This is coin 282. It's packaged up. The reason I packaged this one up is sometimes when I'm going to an event or something like that, and I think I'm going to bump into somebody and get asked about the coins or whatever, I like to kind of have one, as well as my own coin, I like to have kind of a spare. But these are the coins, and they do have a head and tails side. And also what's really cool is, was I carrying it? Maybe I don't have it here because I was carrying it recently. Yeah, I think it's in my jeans. I have a no-nonsense whiskey coin, and on one side it physically says no with the hand. So it's fantastic for flipping and making decisions with. But these have become really a wonderful little thing. The countries that these are going to, I've got one in the Arctic. There's one in the Arctic. There's a couple in Alaska. There's some in New Zealand and in Australia and South America. There's even a few in Glasgow. They're everywhere. It's wonderful. Lads, ladies, and the illustrious Aquaviti, going to finish my first glass of the Balcones Texas single malt. Then it's off to bed. That's Stephen as well. I'm gonna open one of my Balcones very soon. I think they've been sitting downstairs sealed long enough, and I'm starting to get curious if they can taste as good here as they did when I was in Texas. McAllen Fine and Rare Doc is in. How have I not seen any of your comments so far? He's saying flights to the Isle of Man are expensive. Manx Bothy tour sounds good. I bet you a Manx Bothy tour would be really expensive. Actually, I imagine if we all know Ralphie, the price doesn't matter. If he didn't want you touring his Bothy, you wouldn't get a tour of his Bothy. It was really cool to see because he's got the fungus growing on his walls, right, from the alcohol vapor inside his Bothy. And we've obviously worked out because of a recent tour that he shared with his community. I don't know if it was just on Patreon or maybe it was a public video. He's got his Bothy furnished with casks. He's got casks in his Bothy, and that's obviously the evaporation from those casks is what is feeding that fungus, that growth on his walls. Because if you go back in time with Ralphie videos back a couple of years to the Bothy, the walls are much, much lighter. Quite amazing. The Whiskey Friend Alan is saying there's also a couple of coins in Manchester. Yes, there is, my friend. There definitely is. And Paul Gibbs is saying, just got in chat. Good to welcome you, Paul. Good to welcome you. I wonder, Paul, are you coming up here to meet us at the Bonaccord on the evening, Saturday the 18th? It would be good to have you coming up, if at all possible. Okay, I'm going to move on to another Epiphany whiskey. For me, a big Epiphany whiskey. Because if it wasn't for this whiskey, I would not be sitting in front of you just now. Let's put it in my Isla glass. This is just coincidence. I didn't mean to do this. It's a Lagavulin Fischl glass from 2018. This is Lagavulin 16, and you can see it's Lagavulin 16. It looks exactly like a bottle of Lagavulin 16, but let me point out a couple of things. Instead of a little kind of sail shaped motif on the top, it's got a royal warrant. So that's a first clue. Down here, you've got some writing about moss water. Very curious information about, I'll read it out to you. It says, moss water passing over rocky falls, steeped in mountain air and moorland peat, distilled and matured in oak casks exposed to the sea, shape Lagavulin's robust and smoky character. Time, say the islanders, takes out the fire and leaves in the warmth. So there's some wording there that's very unique to this specific bottling. It's an old bottling, and I'll explain in a second, but it has the Strange Horse of Sunival, which is a wonderful William Black story. If anybody wants a copy of that story, I've got an excerpt of that on PDF that I can share with you. You can send me an email and I'll happily send it back. It's a wonderful little short, and it doesn't just give you a glimpse of kind of Scottishness of that time, but also how we viewed and consumed whiskey, even malt whiskey. And the William Black excerpt here says, I have been on Islay more as 3 times or 2 times myself, and I have been close to the Lagavulin distillery, and I know that it is the clear water of the spring that will make the Lagavulin whiskey just as fine as new milk. Well, I don't know about that, Mr. Black, but I can tell you just now that this is a fine whiskey. The other clue that you're looking for here is instead of Islay 1816 being embossed in the glass, you can see that it's actually gold paint. So this ages it even further. And also we have 75 CL. So we know that this is a UK bottling from pre-1990. It doesn't even have a barcode or anything on it. So this is a late 80s. We know that the Classic Malts was launched in 1988. So it's 88 or 89 bottling of Lagavulin 16-year-old White Horse edition. And it even says White Horse Distillers Glasgow down the bottom here. That means that the liquid in this bottle, and it's getting very low now. This was quite a bit higher than that. I've shared a lot of this very recently, and even gave some to Foodquig this week. This is needing killed off now. This is a bit fragile, this whiskey, and it just needs, the decent thing needs done. I don't know how much it would cost to buy this now. I think it's up in a couple of hundreds, but it's a real fantastic example of how Lagavulin has changed over time, like any whiskey has, really honestly. Any whiskey has had to change. But this is how Lagavulin was first curated when it was first launched. But the liquid in this bottle, it's 16 years old. That would put that to mid to early 70s. So there's a chance that there's a significant proportion of liquid in this bottle that came from the days when Lagavulin had its own floor maltings. I'm always nervous about these old corks, right? But I've opened this week and it was fine. Oh. Foodquig, have you got your sample handy? Have you drank it already? This is one of the richest, softest Lagavulin 16s that you'll ever taste. Lots of old dank warehouse, lots of old bottle effect type smells going on. Very rich, very soft, very savoury as well, actually. Almost like not salami. Sounds nuts. But yeah, mate, like a salami, no, like a, really. But sweetness as well, and fruit, dried fruit, but in a damp sack. If you've tried this, you'll get what I'm talking about. If you've tried this style of whiskey even, you would get what I'm talking about. But why is this an Epiphany whiskey for me? It's not this White Horse bottling specifically. I just wanted to share this White Horse bottling with you because I think it's curious. I think it's interesting. But it's Lagavulin 16. My brother and I went fishing. We didn't have a lot of money together. We passed Inverary, Lochfine Whiskies in Inverary, the shop, and we didn't have money, but we were pushing our children, our babies in a pram, and we had change in the base of the pram. We had enough money to buy a 20 cl bottle of Lagavulin 16. And I didn't like peated whiskies at the time, but my brother did, and he wanted to buy the Lagavulin 16 and try it. And we took it, and we bought it, and we shared it. And we got through it very, very quickly that night and the next night. Just a 20 cl bottle, very small. But I can still taste the last dram I had from that bottle. And it was a wee bit like the moment I had last night. Everybody was in bed. It was just me. I was clearing up. And I sat there, and late in the evening, I had my last dram from Lagavulin 16 and was quite surprised how much I was enjoying a smoky whiskey. But there was a thing that happened that evening that completely changed my perspective of whiskey. It completely changed my attitude to whiskey and what it can be and what it can do. And I realized that I just can't continue sharing this and kind of trying to encourage friends to enjoy it. I need to learn about this. I need to know what this whiskey's about. That was 2009, so I'm coming up in 10 years ago. Just a wonderful, wonderful thing to have happened, and for that I'm ever grateful to Lagavulin for. Whiskey Radar is saying, piece of history. I think you're absolutely right, my friend. Macallan Fine and Rare is saying, is it coloured? Even back then, I have no doubt that despite the use of significantly more sherry casks, that they would be probably colouring it. Colouring's been going on for a wee while, so Yeah, probably. Alistair Gray saying, just opened my Lagavulin 9 Game of Thrones. Wow, wow, I've never smelled anything like it. Very easy to drink Lagavulin. I keep saying that, but it's just really what I find. Jason Whiskey Weiss is saying, check your DMs. Richard Hall, evening Whiskey folk, family trip to New. Thanks for Whiskey Rev. What family trip to northwest Scotland coming up to the Gairloch. Anyone got any suggestions, recommendations for a distillery visit with a good shop for distillery exclusives? Would the Whiskey Rev knows that area quite well, and I'm trying to think. You could shoot down to Campbelltown. I think maybe your nearest distillery is going to be Oban. Would that be right, Rev? If you were looking for distillery exclusives, there's sometimes things to pick up in Oban, but you tend to find it's the Diageo Core Ranger or Diageo standard products. You get lots of flora and fauna and things in Oban, and they occasionally have distillery exclusives, but if you were looking for that, I would head to Springbank. Whiskey Freedom is saying, need to get my beauty sleep, y'all. Good night, Aquavitae. Good night, Whiskey Freedom. Good night, Fraser. It was nice to have you in. Sorry I missed you. And it says, Roy, what time are you starting the quiz tonight? Oh, wow. We're at 11 o'clock already. Absolutely incredible. Let's start it now, shall we? Who's up for the quiz? 157 people still watching. 157 people still chatting in the lounge. Are you still comfortable? You up for hanging around a little while? The quiz is easier tonight. So if the quiz isn't your thing, maybe hang around and try this one tonight. It might be a wee bit easier. Per Christensen is saying, Aquavitae, I have tried the Lagavulin 9 years in the Game of Thrones series, and it was a disappointment. The smoke in the nose was gone after a few minutes. I love the 16 years. Have you tried the 8-year-old? So, as I've said before, Per, the Lagavulin 9-year-old is all about making an accessible version of Lagavulin. So the Lagavulin DNA is there for me. But if you like the smoke, if you like the power of Lagavulin to manifest in smoke, the 8-year-old would be my recommendation. And if you can go to the cost of it, the 12-year-old cast strength, absolutely. Jay Manley, hello from MN, is that Minnesota? There is at least one Aquavitae coin here as well. Josh, it's wonderful to welcome you, and my friend. And yes, there is one out there in, is that Manitoba, or it must be Minnesota, right? Apologies for forgetting, Josh. Whiskey Geek is saying, need to top up my whiskey to console my quiz failure. To console my quiz failure. Don't worry. I'm expecting a 10 out of 10 tonight, really. Jason is saying, Aquavitae should do a food quig and go for 8 hours, as I'm up for modding that. Well, you know, I was in a silly little chat recently, and there was this kind of, because I'm getting digs for, you know, not being able to keep it under 2 hours, although I think the last 3 streams have been under 2 hours. I kind of had an idea to have a bit of a play on that, but I don't think I would be able to do it alone. So yes, I'm kind of thinking about much in the same theme and spirit as the Dummies 12 Hours of Boom, which is really, really great fun. I was thinking of doing something along those lines, but I would have to have some way to keep it a bit more interesting than just me. Steve A is saying, Josh Manley, there are several of Aquavitae's coins in Minnesota. I've got 4 at the moment, 2 of my own and 2 for friends until I see them in a week or so. I think 2 of those are going down to Yoji and Marcus. I think you're holding coins for those 2 guys, aren't you, Steve? Fantastic. Wonderful. So let's have a wee go at the quiz. I think I've managed to cover most of the things I wanted to talk about anyway. Let's have a wee go on this lovely old 1970s distillate, Lagavulin. Slant you, folks. Food Quig, are you still in? Have you tried this yet? Andy Food Quig is one of my favourite guys to have a moment with. I told him about this face to face. He did a review of one of my whiskies, a sample I sent to him, a Gordon MacPhail Balblair 21. And that guy does a dram justice. When he's in his zone and he's sitting there, he's presenting to his camera, but you can tell he doesn't, there's nothing else going on in the world. He's inside the dram. He's uncannily good. Not Marcus, Matthias. I was so close. Steve, you're absolutely right. Yoji and Matthias Metzner. Wonderful. Looking forward to those guys getting their coins as well. Okay, let's see if we can spark up the quiz tonight. Quiz at the end. Multiple choice, of course, it always is. Keep your own scores. Be honest with yourself and just see how you score tonight versus other evenings. Like I say, I feel that this is a wee bit easier than normal. So let's see how we get on. Is this going to work? Should do. Hopefully you're seeing that quiz. Okay, Jason, if we're ready for this, crank this up and see how we go on. Question 1. Which of these distilleries does not have an open-top mash tun? Okay, I admit this is a bit of a tricky question, but if you've done any distillery tours or you read about distilleries at all, this is like a big deal. I mean, people like to know who's got the full Lauter mash tun, who's got the open-top mash tun, who's got the cast iron, the mash tun, things like that. I just want to know which of these doesn't have an open-top mash tun. Is it A, Bruichladdich, B, Deanston, or C, Glenfarclas? A, Bruichladdich, B, Deanston, or C, Glenfarclas? Food Quick is saying still. All my samples are in a locker at the bus depot, sipping a Glenmoe Signet now. Well, I have to tell you, this Lagavulin 16 White Horse, Quig, you're going to love it. You're going to just love it. You have to taste past that kind of old, dank, the old bottle effect flavours that go on, but they're not strong. It's kind of more manifest as like an older style of whiskey rather than old bottle effect. Everybody here thinks that it's Glenfarclas that doesn't have an open top mash tun. The vast majority of you are answering C. Let's have a wee look to see if you're right. Bruichladdich, Deanston, or indeed Glenfarclas does not have an open top mash tun. It is a full Lauter tun. I've just had a panic pop into my head here. And I want to remember that I actually did something tonight and remember to do it. I did. Wow, thank goodness for that. Because I was rushing tonight, I didn't get a chance to check this quiz before I went live. And I did this. I did a bit of it last night. And I did a bit of it tonight before I went out. But we're in good shape, hopefully. Question 2. Who has most recently announced the replacement of vintages in favour of age statement? Told you I'd be kind to you tonight. And you might find there's a couple of questions that are based around topics that I've spoken about earlier tonight. Who has most recently announced the replacement of vintages in favour of age statement? A, Glenrothes, B, Gordon and MacPhail, or C, Balblair? Who has recently ditched vintages in favour of age statements? Quig is saying, I will get there, Aquaviti. Plenty of time, Quig. Plenty of time, my friend. The answers are coming in before Jason's actually managed to get his defining line in to keep my eye on track. Everybody seems to think it's C. Wow, there's going to be a bunch of people. These are giveaways. Is anybody straying? The One Glass Man is saying OMG, 2 out of 2, fantastic. As of course we spoke about it earlier, Balblair has just chosen to ditch their vintages in favour of a 12, 15, was there an 18? I don't think there was. No, was it a 12-year, an 18 and a 25, was it? Regardless, let's move on to question 3. In whiskey production, what is most commonly either clear or cloudy? Now, I don't doubt that all of these things have a potential of being clear or cloudy, but the one that's most talked about, the one that's most commonly talked about is clear or cloudy. Is it clear or cloudy wash, clear or cloudy distillate, or clear or cloudy wort? Now, clearly, this clear or cloudy thing has an impact on the whiskey and the final product. Neither is necessarily better than the other. It's only better if you're trying to achieve that thing from it, or a certain thing from it. Whiskey Geek is filling me in that it's 12, 15, 18 and 25, so they've got 4 coming out. And Anthony Dunn, yeah, we spoke about that earlier. Anthony, nice to welcome you in. That looks like a new name. We spoke about the fact that the 25 is £500. It's a little bit of a sad day. We need Balblair to come out and tell us a bit more. Maybe I need to do a wee bit more research to understand a wee bit more. Maybe they are putting in extremely mature stock in there and can't tell us that that's the case because of the stupidly constrictive regulations that the industry works under sometimes. Lots of people are saying C again. Lots of people think that it's C for wort. Let's have a look. Yes. Clear or cloudy wort. Typically, I think the majority of Scotch distilleries would tend to favour a cloudier wort. Lots of distilleries that are looking for a cleaner, brighter spirit want a clear wort. Japanese whiskey, I know, is very heavily based in clear wort. Question 4. Which of these distilleries, I should have written here, boast floor maltings? One of these distilleries has a floor maltings. Is it A, Bruichladdich, B, Benriach, or C, Glenfiddich? A, Bruichladdich, B, Benriach, or C, Glenfiddich. There are 7 distilleries, I think still 7. I don't think anybody else has installed floor maltings since the last time I checked that has floor malting still in place. I think still only one of them has the ability to do 100% of its own malt requirement. Jay Chung, A, Arnie, Tiger, Jimmy Jazz, Michael Johnson, Mikey Hay. Everybody is saying A. Whoa. Lots of people think A. By far, the majority say A. That Bruichladdich have their own floor maltings. I notice here Sanjeev Bangar is in. Sanjeev, good to welcome you in. You seem to think it's B, that Benriach has floor maltings. And indeed, they do. Benriach have their own floor maltings. Bruichladdich had extensive plans for floor maltings, but never fully realised it. So they wanted to have floor maltings, and they still want to have floor maltings, but they don't have them as of yet. It is Benriach. And it was a bit of a heritage project at Benriach. I was at a Benriach tasting quite recently, and it was shared with us why they put the floor maltings in. It was really quite interesting. Gregor is saying it could be a banana skin here. It was a bit of a banana skin for a lot of folk. I thought that people would have got that. Let's have a think. The 7 are Highland Park, Benriach, Balvenie Speyside, Springbank, because they do 100% of their requirement. That's us got 4, and I think there's 3 on Islay. Kilchoman, Laphroaig, and Bamore. That's the 7. The herd mentality was strong there, said Shane Holden. You're absolutely right, Shane. Good to welcome you, and that looks like a new name as well. Let's move on to question 5, which is always an image. So here we have an image of a distillery somewhere in the world. I'm going to leave that up while I chat to you so you can try to study it. And I'm going to ask you where that distillery is. I've clicked off, sorry. I'm going to ask, is it A, Het Anker in Belgium, B, Yoichi in Japan, or C, James Sedgwick Distillery in South Africa? Now, mentioning James Sedgwick makes me think of Gustav. I've got some samples from him, and I've been meaning to do something with them for a long time, some nice South African samples from James Sedgwick. But is that a distillery we're looking at, or are we looking at Yoichi from Japan? Or are we looking at Het Anker in Belgium? Lots of you are answering. I'm going to leave that up a while, but I'm going to reach behind me and I'm going to show you 2 things that was sent to me by someone, which is connected with this question. Lee Woodrow is saying flag, yes. The flag might be a banana. Okay, let's have a wee look. I'm not even sure I can make out anything on that flag. It is, in fact, Yoichi in Japan. So just take that away and let you see that there. I have photoshopped out the Japanese stonework, the Japanese characters and the stonework here. There are some giveaway Japanese characters here. I don't know if your resolution is up for bringing it out. Mine is not in the camera preview anyway. But that is Yoichi in Japan. The thing that would give it away for me was perhaps these trees in the background here, right? That kind of look Japanese, but it did have a wee bit of a Belgian look, which is what made me put in the Het Anker distillery. I have here, apparently I'm told by some beer geek friends that this is a very good beer. This is a Guden Carolus whiskey-infused craft beer. This is a Cuvée Van de Keizer, it's called, a Belgian beer. And this was sent to me by Menno. He's in the Whiskey Tribe. He's a follower and supporter of me as well. And he sent this to me and I was very, very grateful to receive it. Looking forward. It's a big, big bottle. So this is a beer I'm going to share. And he also sent me the whiskey that they distill from this beer. From that distillery. It's a single malt. It's a malt product that they put out. But the image that you were looking at was not this distillery. The image you were looking at was, of course, Het Anker. Sorry, it was Yoichi. The distillery we're looking at was Yoichi. The Lagavulin is so lovely, so soft, so rich, delicate. It's not the big bruise or the peat and the smoke is there, but it's much more integrated. It's a softer prospect. A little bit dry, there's a bit of bitterness in the finish. Definitely that dusty element all over it. Let's move on to question 6. I gave this one away a wee bit earlier as well. When did UK bottles change from 75 CL, 750ml, to 70 CL? When did they change? Was it January 1990, January 1999, or January 2009? So oh dear, I've just clicked the wrong thing and given you away that already. I did mention it earlier, I apologise. Sometimes difficult when you click something and it doesn't register and you muscle memory means that you're clicking something else. So consider that a free point from me. But I did mention it earlier in the stream. We talked about how this Lagavulin, I could have a clue in terms of aging this UK bottle of Lagavulin 16 from the gold leaf paint, you know, the Royal Crest, but also specifically the 75 CL on the label. And that legislation did come in, indeed, January 1990. Sometimes I do that, I make a wee mistake and end up giving people things for free, but that's okay. How are we doing? But it's after 6. How are we getting on? Who is sitting on 6 out of 6? Too much laga influence, my friend. It is a wee bit distracting, I'll be honest with you, Greg. Becky's laughing at me as well. Ooh, Etty Maltcask 5 out of 6. Tony Evans, Alistair Gray 5 out of 6. Andreas in Norway, good to see you. Service Alafis is saying 4 out of 6 as well as Whiskey Radar. Malted Man Cave is just saying, haha, I don't know what his score is. Who's on 6 out of 6? Whiskey Geek Ben said you avoided me tripping over the first banana skin for me. I gave you a 6 out of 6. Well done, Ben. You're on a full house so far. Let's see if we can keep it going. Lots of 4s and 5s. Per Christensen is, oh my God, and I got the Glenfarclas wrong, and I have been there 3 times, lol. No problem, Per. Okay, good scores. So it looks like Ben is the only guy in a full house. Am I right or wrong? Let's have a quick look at the DMs. Question 7. Which distillery on Islay employs worm tubs for condensation? Worm tubs as opposed to something like a shell and tube, of course. Is it A, Kilchoman, B, Ardnahoe, or C, Lagavulin? Which of those 3 condenses its spirit with worm tubs? A, Kilchoman, B, Ardnahoe, or C, Lagavulin? Try not to lead the herd, Ben. Vaughn Finson is in. Good to see you, Vaughn. I think I just shipped a coin to you as well. Or a few coins, maybe. Arnie Tiger is in. Good to see you, my friend. Kilted Moose thinks B for Ardnahoe. Lots of people say E. Michael Johnson. Michael, good to see you. Thinks it's A for Kilchoman. Does anybody think it's Lagavulin? C. Anthony Dunn thinks it's Lagavulin. Let's see. Worm tubs is famous for leaving a lot of the kind of heavier components intact. Distilleries like Craigellachie, Mortlach, Glenkinchie. So a few distilleries employ worm tubs in order for a weight thing. Whiskey Geek is saying I did type it after you showed options. I'm sorry, Ben. I hope you don't feel scolded. Let's have a wee look to see. Yes, it is indeed B. The brand new distillery, Ardnahoe on Islay, is using worm tubs for condensation. I have an invite to go out to the opening of Ardnahoe on the 11th of April. I would absolutely love to make that. That would be a fantastic excuse. It would be a ridiculous kind of fly in, fly straight back out again. It's going to be very difficult to fit in. But I would be excited to do that and be able to share with you guys what's going on at the newest distillery on Islay. Let's go on to question 8 and talk about Rachel Barry. Glendronach whiskey maker Rachel Barry has also worked for A, Glenmorangie, B, the Scotch Whisky Association, or C, British Airways. Curious question, I know. For those of you who know Rachel Barry's background, I think she was originally a chemist. Has she worked for A, Glenmorangie, B, the Scotch Whisky Association, or C, British Airways? She's now looking after Glenglassaugh, Benriach, and Glendronach under Brown-Forman. And I have to say, there's a lot of people alarmed about Brown-Forman getting involved in Scotch whisky and how they would take the whisky in what direction and things like that. And I have to say that there's not been too much alarm bells. Seems to be mostly positive so far. This is a wee bit all over the place, I think. This is a good question. Mark Slinger saying, how do you spell Glendronach? Mark, cheeky bugger. Yeah, there is a bit of dyslexia going on there, right? I did admit to rushing to prepare this for you tonight, so forgive me my spelling mistake. Nigel Lynn is saying A, Sanjeev A, Tony Evans also think A, Arbagi A. Lots of people think Glenmorangie. Some people, Arnie Tiger, Per Christensen, Jessica Vaughan and Malcolm think B for the Scottish Whisky Association. Does anybody think that she once worked for British Airways? Etty thinks it's C, British Airways. John Pallister, C. Let's have a wee look. Rachel Barry, before she worked at Morrison Bowmore, worked for Glenmorangie. Yes. I was hoping to throw a wee banana skin in there, but she did indeed work as the majority guest at Glenmorangie. Stevie is saying, wait, which was Glenmorangie? It was A. If you knew it, Steve, don't worry if you answered it correctly. If you knew it, you're keeping your own score, so you can keep yourself right. Don't worry about it. Here's another kind of world whiskey question. And I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'll give it a try, okay? Brennerei Telser in Liechtenstein is unique as a malt distillery in Europe because it has wood-fired stills, an open-air mash house, or it employs chestnut cask maturation. Which of those three things makes Brennerei Telser in Liechtenstein? I think this is a really small distillery. I don't have much intelligence on it other than the fact that it exists. And the thing I'm looking for is a real thing. One of these things is real. Does it? This is crazy, right? How would anybody know this unless you lived there or you happened to visit there or you were really into your really small craft European distilleries? You know, when all the questions are easy, there has to be a bit of kind of luck involved in order for you to earn your high scores, don't you think? Is it A for wood-fired stills? Is it B for an open-air mash house? Or C for chestnut cask maturation? Almost everyone is answering C for chestnut cask maturation. Wow. Everybody thinks that this Liechtenstein distillery is using chestnut casks, when in fact, no, it is actually firing its stills, whoops, with wood. It uses fairly small stills and it uses direct firing fueled by wood. Very curious, very unique. Whiskey Geek is saying downhill from here, another guess, A. You got it right. Arbagi got it right. Lee Woodrow got it right. Anthony Dunn got it right. Ebhead Rolf got it right. Sanjeev, must be scoring well, Sanjeev got it right. Jeremy Sims is celebrating. Looks like he got it right as well. Let's move into the last question. Is Ben still on 9 out of 9? Is there anyone else on 9 out of 9? Before I tell you whether the last one is easy or not. I think the last one is very easy. Stevie is admitting he's at -2. Lol. Come back, the ref. Really? I thought these were softer questions. My goodness. Ben, come on, share with me. Where are you? Where is your... Tell me where you're at. Ah, you guessed British Airways. Ah, okay. So, kind of knocked you off your perch a wee bit. Okay, let's move into question. I'm just looking to see if there's any 9 out of 9s. Let's move into question 10. Lagavulin declares its founding year as 1816, 1833, or 1881. Lagavulin, the south coast of Islay. Is it A, 1816, B, 1833, or C, 1881? They started out all nice and friendly, then went hard quickly. Sorry, Jeremy. Jeremy Sims is having a go. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, most of you have got this right. Most of you have got this right. Few of you seem to think it's a wee bit later. So let me tell you that Lagavulin, I held up the bottle on screen earlier to show you the gold leaf painted 1816. So there we go. 1816, it's on all the bottles, of course. There's no doubt that there was whiskey production there long before that, but that's when they've decided to declare the legal start of their whiskey production. I'm going to pour my last Epiphany whiskey of the evening. But that was a very enjoyable dram tonight, that Lagavulin. It really needs killed off. There's not enough left in the bottle. I think it could be quite a fragile whiskey. Triple cap, the guy called Walt from the States came over to the UK, and I picked him up at the airport and brought him into Glasgow. And he had some samples for me. And one of them was a Jack Daniels single barrel proof. I said, thank you very much. Didn't really love bourbon too much. I was trying bourbon. I was playing with it. Didn't really have a hook for me. Certainly didn't have much interest in Tennessee whiskey, such as Jack Daniels. He gave me this, and I poured it, and I was like, oh my God. That was an epiphany moment. That was nothing like how I expected any style of American whiskey to taste like. And then I got my hands on this as well. And this was equally as journey changing. This whiskey and that Jack Daniels that I've just told you means that I approach every bourbon and American whiskey with a slightly different perspective now. And those of you that have kind of gone through that kind of gateway scenario where something's come along and nudged you in a direction, you can understand how that can be a thing. My last clean glass of the night, although, to be honest with you, with the power of this whiskey, in terms of flavour and ABV, 69.7% ABV. This is the original bottle of Wow. So this is an Epiphany whiskey, I think, for me and for maybe the Scotch Taste Tummies and a bunch of other people out there. You really, look how little I've poured of this. It's actually more than I thought. Wow, it's looking very red, and that whiskey's not that red. My face is not this pink, actually, as I look at that camera tonight. It's the white balance on this thing. Let's come back a bit and see if I can hold up a white sheet. Very dark, obviously, from very active virgin oak casks. Oh, God. Power, the fruit, the confectionery, the caramel, the sweetness. It's not vanilla like vanilla. It's like vanilla pods. Strong spice and cinnamon. It burns. It really does. 69.7% ABV. I think there was one edition of this Elijah Craig Barrel Proof ECBP that went out above 70% ABV. Yeah, there's a batch number on here somewhere. The geeks out there will know what it is. It's just wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. I've just had an Isla whiskey, and I'm following it up with a bourbon. But one of the richest, most powerful prospects in bourbon it must be. This makes me want to try more bourbon. It's quite incredible. It's quite incredible how those Epiphany whiskies can have that effect. They can really change your perspective on things, change your desires, change your goals and your wishes, everything. Wonderful. I think there's a very good chance, if I'm calculating this right, I'm going to be under 2 hours for 4 weeks in a row, 4 live streams in a row. I might be counting my Patreon-only live stream in that as well. I was able to keep that under 2 hours. And I did a quiz for the patrons as well. But yeah, I think it's just nicer, and I think it's less intimidating if you're going to watch it in the replay. If you see that the stream's less than 2 hours, I don't think it makes a lot of difference because it's for the people who are here live in the community. Listen, guys, I have a live stream on Saturday night. I'm very excited, a wee bit nervous about it, but it's a special live stream. And I've been asked to keep it under my hat. And I think we're just hoping that it's going to go ahead and it's going to work as planned. I have a special live stream on Saturday night, and it will be worth your while tuning in. If you're busy on Saturday night, I understand it's not my usual slot, anything. But if you're free on Saturday night, 9 o'clock, it'll be a little bit earlier, I think. It'll be a little bit earlier than normal. I'll release it on Saturday. I'll schedule it so that you get a notification. If you've hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification on YouTube. Something happened on YouTube recently where lots of people had their settings reset. So you might think you're getting notifications from me, but maybe just check that that bell icon next to the subscribe button is on and live. You'll get a notification when I post it and schedule it for the timing and things. But yes, I'm really excited about this opportunity on Saturday night, and I hope that you'll join me. It's a bit of a celebration, and it's a bit of a unique thing. I'm dead excited about it. As I take the last couple of sips out of this, I'm going to just say goodbye to you guys. Gregor is saying, imagine, guys, that some uncoloured, unsugared, unchill filtered, small batch cask strength cognacs can taste a bit like this. I've known that. The last cognac I tried, I didn't get on with. But maybe it's one of those things, Gregor. Maybe I'm just not investing enough in it. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough, which is often the case. And Quig is saying, got Lagavulin 16 going now after that signet. Good for you, Quig. Is that the Lagavulin 16 I gave you? John Pallister has just come in with a super chat. He's saying, we are so lucky to have this whiskey community. Cheers, Roy. You echo my thoughts so well, John. I would love this to just continue to build as a community. Obviously, it's difficult to house everyone inside a vPub. It was a very comfortable vPub tonight, I think, but once it breaks 200, 250, I think the chat flies by just that much quicker. Obviously, I don't have a chance of keeping up anyway, but when it goes fast, you guys struggle to chat to each other as well, and it kind of loses a wee bit. Whiskey Geek Ben is saying, yeah, double lives. I appreciate that it is. It's only 2 hours, 2 days, sorry, after tonight, but it is a special live. I would have scheduled this live at 4 a.m. in the morning. That's how excited I am to do it. Frank Harding is saying, I've had Heaven Hill bourbon finished in an Ardbeg cask, which is fantastic. Wow. I have heard a couple of those experimental ones. And Triple Cap Walt is in. Will it still be winter time in UK? Yes. Daylight oh, wait a minute. Yes, daylight saving happens on Saturday night. So yes, we'll still be at winter time. Nice to have you in, Walt. I didn't even know you were in, my friend. Good to have you. I didn't. You might have heard me mentioning the car journey, and when you handed me that single barrel proof Jack Daniels. Scotch in the Bayou, Leanne saying, I'm going to pour some old Portney 17 and look at my awesome new Aquavite coin. Love this all so much. I love you too, Leanne. Thank you so much for being so kind. Thank you for buying a coin. Thank you for being part of our community as well. I recently went back when we were speaking to each other. I went back and read your blog post, which I thought was wonderful. And it led me back to the video of you in the Scotch Test Dummies basement, which I remember catching at the time and just remembering how fantastic an example of bringing that real world thing into the virtual world that it was. Really cool. Whiskey Radar is saying, Greg is saying, we'll be happy to pour some if we meet. Fantastic, Greg. I'll hold you to that promise. Whiskey Radar is saying, Armagnac is a great option. She bought a nice 18-year-old cask strength one in Toulouse recently. Quig is saying, what time? 9 p.m. I should be able to join you from Isla. That would be amazing, Quig. If you were not busy, otherwise occupied on Isla, it would be fantastic to welcome you on Saturday night. Jason Whiskey Wise saying, thank you, Aquavite. I'm slipping over my own tongue now for the stream, and thank you everyone for joining, and also the Whiskey Rev, Slancha, and everyone a good night. Finally, Etty is saying, good night, everyone. Thanks again for bringing us all together, Aquavite. You, Etty, are very, very welcome. I'll say thanks to my two moderators tonight, Jason Whiskey Wise and the Whiskey Rev, and I'm hoping that they can both definitely make Saturday, the 18th of May. It's something not to be missed. If you can get to Glasgow for the 18th of May, just to shake hands and get a chance to shake hands with Scott and Bart all the way from Kansas, Scottish Test Dummies as well. Can you imagine? Just a fantastic opportunity to render this virtual thing that we have real. Whiskey Geek is saying thanks for another excellent vPub, and Talking Point, looking forward to what you've got in store for Saturday evening. Yes. Nothing else to talk about. I think I'm good to go. I'm good to raise a glass under 2 hours. I'm very happy. Remember, if you want to leave a question for Ralphie, please give me ammunition. Inspire me to ask Ralphie the questions that you want to ask him. He's the guy. He's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's the Genesis, the OG whiskey reviewer on YouTube. I'm getting an opportunity to ask him questions. If that's happening, it should be your questions. It shouldn't just be mine. Leave your questions in the comments. Any question has a chance of getting used, but all questions will be entered into the draw for that Glenallachie 12-year-old, which has ended up back in again because I couldn't get out to Kyle. I gave him something else. He donated it back to the community. All good. Gregor's saying, I always keep my promises. Nigel is saying, another good night. We'll watch the first half tomorrow night, everyone. Listen, folks, I love doing this. This is a privilege for me. I look very much forward to welcoming you on Saturday night. Yes, have a wonderful, wonderful time waiting for Saturday night to come round. I'm very, very excited. I will see you all, hopefully, on Saturday. Thank you for joining tonight. Thanks to my moderators. I'll see you soon. Slán